Hello and happy Wednesday, everybody. Here's what's coming up tonight on Now. There's a new drug in our state. It is lethal. We'll have a DEA agent in studio to take your questions.
Plus, a woman begs and pleads to keep her husband in Maine as he's deported back to Guatemala.
And one of the greatest high school prom stories you'll ever see.
This is News Center Now.
We're not talking about politics, we're talking about people.
Sandra Scribner Merlum hasn't seen her husband in a month, and he's about to be deported. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amanda Hill.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. At the start of his term, President Trump oversaw a rewrite of immigration enforcement policies that included making any immigrant living in the country illegally who had been charged, convicted, or even suspected of a crime an enforcement priority. Now, Otto Morales Caballeros was picked up by ICE agents on April 12th on his way to work in Saco. Merlum says it's all because of a mistake that her husband made when he entered the country at 16 years old. His employer gave him a fake Social Security number to start working.
So he faced that mistake in court 3 years ago, pleading guilty. But his wife says they've been working twice as long to get him legal citizenship. Thousands of dollars in legal fees and thousands of miles to and from immigration offices turned out to be too little, too late.
I asked to see my husband, for which may be the last time for a long time. A sharp no was my answer.
This is Sandra Merlum's story.
Opened the car door to find his lunch bag.
But for her, there is no happy ending.
His lunch bag and his hat and his prize watch that I got him for his birthday and his phone. My heart dropped like a bomb in my chest.
At least not in sight.
I just need to lay my hands on him, give him a hug and say it's going to be okay.
Her husband was arrested by ICE agents on April 12th. Merlum says she hasn't seen him since she hugged him goodbye that morning. She's been fighting to get him back ever since, but just found out that fight is over.
Starting in 2006, we applied for asylum. We applied for withholding from removal. We applied for the torture convention. We applied for pretty much everything that we could, and every one of them was denied, including his final appeal, because they said he didn't apply in his first year. That was the only reason.
This press conference, a final plea to anyone listening for help.
Otto is also a Mainer. He has lived and worked here for many years. He has strong Maine values and strong family values. My heart is breaking, not just for my husband, but for all the families currently losing loved ones to these awful ICE raids. These are raids on the American way.
Merlum isn't against deportation of violent criminals, but says that's not her husband.
We've been together for 11 happy years, and I'm not ready to say goodbye. Only I'll see you soon, Mia Moore, my love.
Otto Morales Caballeros is being taken back to Guatemala. Merlum says her husband hasn't been there in more than 20 years since moving to the U.S. Right now, she's working on getting her passport to at least visit him. She's currently going through a waiver process to get him back to Maine.
We didn't call our bar Heroin or any of the other names that you can use.
But what the owners of a new cocktail lounge in the Danforth Inn in Portland did decide to use as a name is causing a lot of people to speak out. Jess Gagne explains.
The drinks have yet to be poured, but this bar is already stirring up controversy.
Now, Opium has already been for a long time in my head for a possible name of a bar or a place.
Owner Raymond Brunyansky says the decision to name this new cocktail lounge after a substance used to make heroin was not intended to promote drug use.
Everybody felt that Opium was the strongest, was the best name to tell the story that we are trying to tell here.
A story he says is based on opium bars in Shanghai in the 1920s. He hopes to transport people to a carefree place filled with high-end luxury, but others see the name as a low blow.
It's exploiting a deadly epidemic.
Terms like addictive and barely legal that have appeared on Opium's Facebook page as part of its marketing message are particularly offensive to Steve Cotro at Portland Recovery Community Center. He believes the name choice was made for financial gain and is disrespectful to those who have lost loved ones to opioid addiction.
And this is glorifying the very thing that took those family members from those people. It's unconscionable.
Opium owners have also faced some online criticism, but Brunyansky says there are no plans to change the name.
People that we're trying to get into our restaurants don't have an issue necessarily with the name. Opium is a reference to a time period, to a fashion moment in time that we think is attractive and fits the narrative of what we're doing here.
All right, this one had a lot of you talking today. Dave says bad press is better than no press, and they get free advertising out of it. Paula thinks it's ridiculously out of touch with the reality of the daily struggles of those fighting opioid addiction. Pamela says it's the name of a perfume and there's other issues worth fighting for. Jack says these people aren't stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. If you want to weigh in, just head on over to our Facebook page.
Staying on the drug epidemic in Maine, a sobering first for our state. The Attorney General's office says someone in York County overdosed and died from the powerful opiate carfentanil. That's a drug used as an elephant tranquilizer. It's about 5,000 times more powerful than heroin. The drug presents even more problems in Maine, which is already seeing an average of more than one drug-related death per day. Scott Pelletier joins us now from the Maine DEA, and thank you for taking the time to join us. Why is this lethal drug something people are even dabbling in?
Well, you know, for the most part, those who are using this drug don't know that it's carfentanil. They don't know that it's fentanyl. They believe they're buying heroin. And that misnomer of bad batches of heroin, there are no good batches of heroin. You just don't know what's in it. And like the story says, I know New Hampshire's had their share of carfentanil now, and I'm sure we're going to see it in Maine.
So this isn't just a risk for the person who uses this. This is a risk for even first responders who have to approach something like this, to the point where if you even touch this stuff with your skin, you're at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just the first responders, but those who engage in this conduct, their family members, anybody who's at the same scene before rescue personnel shows up. We're talking about granules of salt, the size of granules, not like big bags of powder that you can see. It's just 1 microgram of these type of drugs just absorbed through your finger can cause an overdose and death.
So, I mean, it's disturbing to even have this conversation that there's something that powerful that could be that readily available for people, that could even unknowingly come in contact with it and could affect so many people. So what do? You know, this is kind of new. We're hearing about it now. How do you try to stop something as ginormous as this?
Well, you know, for my part in it, I'm in law enforcement, so we're trying to eliminate the actual supply of that. However, you know, addiction treatment and prevention, I think prevention even more. I mean, why would anybody want to consciously take some of these drugs in the first place? The danger that it poses to not just the person using it, but to the people that are around, and particularly law enforcement and rescue personnel. These people come in contact with them all the time, and it doesn't have to be a fatal overdose for that person, but it may be for the rescue personnel, law enforcement, loved one who comes in contact, tries to help that individual.
All right, Scott Pelletier from the DA, thank you for your time. Scott's going to stick around, talk to us during the commercial break if you have any questions on our Facebook page. Amanda?
All right, thanks, Lee. Meanwhile, U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Tom Price was in Augusta today, sitting in on a roundtable meeting about Maine's opioid crisis. This is the Secretary's latest stop on a nationwide listening tour to develop ideas for dealing with national opioid addictions. Price said the Trump administration is committed to reducing addiction and will lean on state and local government to do so. All right, we know fake news is out there, but how exactly do you spot it?
Plus, he's got the tux, the snazzy shoes, and a date he will never forget. One special teenager's courage to step up and ask the girl of his dreams to prom.
I've always said that, you know, you could have a fundraiser page for sex trafficking victims, and right next to it you could have a fundraiser page for stray kittens. And I think the stray kittens would get more money.
Sex trafficking is a global problem, but it has local ramifications. It's estimated that between 250 and 300 people are trafficked in Maine every year. Tomorrow night on News Center Now, we will show you just how big the problem is in our state, talk about why pimps are coming to Maine to recruit girls, and look into what can be done for these victims who are currently not enjoying the way life should be. That is tomorrow at 5 right here on Now.
A toddler who died at a Raymond daycare was getting treated for an ear infection. Adrian Stein here with more news now. State police say 16-month-old Travis Weston was in foster care and staying with the owners of the Peekaroo daycare. He was put down for a nap on Tuesday morning and later found unresponsive. Police don't believe this is suspicious, but an investigation is standard with a child's death under age 3. Autopsy results, by the way, they are still pending on this one. Now, do you know the owners of this dog? We want to show you the dog. The Greater Androscoggin Humane Society says he was thrown out with the trash, found in really bad shape. If you do know the owner of this dog, Lewiston Police would like to hear from you, and you'll hear from the people caring for him tonight on News Center at 6 o'clock. A former longtime town treasurer asked the Maine Supreme Court to overturn her embezzlement and evidence tampering convictions. Claudia Vile's attorney claims the state didn't prove she stole $500,000 from the town of Anson. Viles, by the way, was convicted last year, and News Center's Chris Rose shows us how that town is healing financially and emotionally coming up tonight at 5:30, guys.
All right, thanks, Adrian. Okay, it's prom season. We know that, and one high school senior had the night of his dreams.
Nice. This is a special night for a boy who deserves it more than anyone.
He's battling a life-threatening disease, but all his cares seem to melt away thanks to his big date.
Oh, and with the forecast, we don't think this guy is getting asked to dance anytime soon. All right, think back for a minute. Do you remember what your senior prom was like? For so many high schoolers, it is an unforgettable evening.
Is it bad that I don't really remember much? This past weekend, there was a senior from Brunswick with a unique date, thanks in part to a very special place in Maine.
Nice.
Tonight is Jack Parker's big night.
Oh, you look so handsome.
A tuxedo, a bow tie, and some spiffy shoes complete a sharp outfit for his senior prom.
Look at that.
I can't wait.
Jack needs a little help from his mom and dad. Just before his second birthday, Jack was diagnosed with an aggressive brain tumor.
And every day we're so grateful that he's still alive. I mean, we almost lost him at age 2 and age 5 and age 7, so every day's just been a gift.
Doctors removed the tumor in 2007, but Jack suffered a stroke. His cancer came back in 2012.
We didn't know that he was going to be a 17-year survivor. So for many years, every holiday, we didn't know if that was the last holiday.
Slow and steady.
Jack has had 16 surgeries and went through chemotherapy for more than 5 years. But there's one place in Maine where Jack and his family find a reprieve. On the shores of Sebago Lake, Camp Sunshine.
I think yours is a little bit better than mine.
A place for kids with life-threatening illnesses and their families to get away from the hospital.
He is in an environment where he's empowered and he's confident as heck. I mean, he has so many deficits and he's lost so much, but he really doesn't know how much he's lost. He's, you know, when he comes here, he's just really cool, you know.
Jack was feeling particularly brave the day Miss Maine, Mary Beth Noonan, was visiting.
I was not that nervous.
Though his surgeries and treatments affect Jack's ability to communicate, he was brave enough to ask her on a date.
People to go to the prom with me.
Of course, I'd love to. It's a blessing to be able to know that for one night, I'll be able to give him something that makes him so happy.
I was happy and she's so nice.
I mean, we prayed for these days, you know.
That day, his senior prom involves one of his favorite activities, dancing.
That's because I get to move my body.
For tonight, at least, his cancer sat this one out.
It's terrifying, but what it does do is it forces you to live today and live in the moment today and appreciate the good things.
A moment that Jack and his family will never forget.
So a very fitting end to that story. If you check out this video right here, Jack was named Prom King.
course he was.
Naturally.
Well,
no surprise for him, considering the amount of courage, the amount of determination that young man has had to show throughout his entire life. And that was, his mom, Kate, told me he was on cloud 9 that night.
And they were, I understand they were chanting his name, the entire student body, when he got named prom queen.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool stuff.
That's awesome to have the whole community around him.
Yeah.
Aw, what a fun night.
Yeah. Good job, sir.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
Keith.
All right, tough to follow that up. Good story there, Chris. All right, let's talk about what's going on in May so far. It's not just your imagination, and it has not been nice. 6 out of 10 days, more than 50% cloudy in Portland. 8 out of 10 days in Bangor. Temperatures below average, rainfall above average, and we continue that trend today with showers now continuing to move across central and northern Maine. The showers have been pretty light in nature, but as you can see, the coverage has expanded through the afternoon, now shifting to the south of Bangor and Augusta, and heading towards Portland. Might get a few drops here as well later this evening. So showers continue through the first half of tonight. Tomorrow is a very similar day. There's some peaks of sunshine, but on the whole, it's not a very good looking day. Finally, we kind of break this pattern, at least for a day and a half or almost 2 days. Friday is a dry day, and then Saturday is a dry day as well. Now Friday, we're going to start with a lot of clouds, so don't expect to wake up Friday morning and say, wow, the pattern is a whole lot better, because it will be cloudy. But by the late afternoon hours, you can see that sun starting to break out. We'll see late day sunshine there, and then Saturday, most of the day is dry as well. The bad news is Mother's Day has gone downhill. We knew that there'd be some rain. The question was, how heavy would the rain be? How consistent would the rain be? And the latest computer model runs have brought in what is essentially a nor'easter. It's just not snow this time around. Big low coming in out of the mid-Atlantic, parking itself Sunday over the Gulf of Maine. Ample moisture, heavy winds, a lot of rain. I don't see too many positive sides to the forecast on Mother's Day. Temperatures also staying right around 50 for a high. So that rain will come in a big way, and you can see it's about 2 inches is what is predicted, particularly over southern Maine. Most of that falls on Mother's Day. It starts Saturday night and lasts through at least Sunday afternoon. The heaviest rain there again over the southern part of the state. But there is some hope in sight in all of this. Eventually, once that low moves out on Monday, we start to ridge a bit. Tuesday, Wednesday, see those warmer colors coming in, and then it ridges in a big way for next weekend. Not ready to buy this hook, line, and sinker quite yet, but if the euro is right on this, next weekend will be 70s at least, and maybe you'll forgot what happened for the beginning of May. Maybe not, but I think it'll be a big change nonetheless. So here's a look at your extended forecast. Again, Mother's Day not looking good. Showers continue on Monday. I think the light at the end of the tunnel begins on Tuesday and starts to ramp up on Wednesday. And again, if the Euro's right about that ridging, that large-scale ridging in the east, you'll see some big changes in the extended range past Thursday and Friday. So my initial read on it was see you May 15th, and then I said maybe May 20th. We might end up, guys, right in between, breaking the pattern mid-next week.
All right, great.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight at 5:30. Come on in, Cindy.
Hey, guys. We are working on what the fallout is from the firing of FBI Director James Comey. We've got that for you. Court papers reveal what may have been the motive behind the stabbing of that Portland cab driver. Plus,
there's always that guilt. If you're at work, you feel guilty that you're not the stay-at-home mom.
the delicate balance of work, life, and home life for the Maine women in charge of some local companies. We're going to profile the CEO of Gifford's Ice Cream to find out how she does it all.
All right. Thanks a lot, Cindy. More news now. Next.
All right, we've spent a lot of this week talking about fake news, how it gets out there, how some people are more motivated by clicks than actual accuracy.
Yeah, so how do you find out if a website is actually legit? Here are some key clues on what to look for.
There's a lot of choices and there's a lot of information out there.
Just like a series of steps is what I do. So the first thing that sticks out is, one, that headline. Fake news headlines tend to be very exaggerated. They tend to be very hyperbolic. They are outlandish, kind of outrageous. Most mainstream news sites or legitimate sites will have a very easy and clear way to find their contributors. Broken links, the broken archive. I think people just see, oh, blue text underlined, this is a link, I can trust this, and don't necessarily follow where the link goes. Everyone's kind of participating in the clickbait rhetoric of headlines at this point.
The more you want to believe it, the more likely you are to believe it and share it.
You want to use your memory and your skepticism and multiple news sources to draw your own conclusions in the marketplace of ideas.
All right, if you missed any of our stories this week about fake news or want to take the quiz yourself, you can see if you can figure out what is real online. Just head on over to the Now section of our website or our mobile apps. I kind of want to take that test.
You should take that test, like you just took my line right there.
Yeah.
See, says Lee. Okay.
I think most
Keith's
people
here
can
now
tell.
for
They just-
You can still read that.
I don't want to now.
Hannah said it was my
Okay.
read. For the
Keith's
record,
here.
that was not my fault. Anyway, let's move on.
Divas. All right, raindrops. We're going to do more myths today. We'll start with people get warts from frogs and toads. I didn't think this was the only way it happened, but I definitely remember as a kid thinking this was a real thing.
I thought so too.
Yeah, turns out
I think everybody did.
Turns out totally not a real thing. The only way you get warts is actually basically from other people, either shaking hands or indirect contact. It's all an infection under the layer of your skin. Often that starts with a scratch, and then the virus causes your skin to grow outward, and then you can get it from somebody else. All right, what else we got next? Bats are blind.
True.
Also not true.
See, I thought that
Also
was
not
true
true.
too.
In fact, bats basically have as good eyesight as the average human. But the reason this came about, of course, they can fly at night. They use basically a sonar system in that case. So they bounce sound off the walls, comes back to their ears. They can measure the distance that way.
Okay.
So it's not that they can't see. It's just this works better for them in the middle of the night. They got options. They got
they're diversified.
Those are not as cute. All right. You need to wait an hour, half hour
I already
after
know the
eating
answer to
swim.
that one.
Also not true.
That is false.
Also not true. And the reason this started, by the way, is people thought that all the blood would rush your stomach to digest and you'd cramp up. They've been able to find that that is just not the
Don't
case.
you get cramps though if you work out?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, working out. It's different.
We got to go. News Center at 5:30.
It's a great
starts
picture of you,
now.
Lee, by
We're
the
gonna
way.
keep
You
talking.
look really nice.